Hello, and welcome to another installment in GreenFrog's Trackside Travels mini video series. This episode will feature the crude oil trains that have become a mainstay across Class 1 main lines throughout the United States. We'll look at oil trains, primarily in Indiana and Ohio, but we'll catch some oil train action in other places as well. Our first train for the program is Empty Oil Train 65R, which is returning for another load of oil from the Bakken region of North Dakota. Recent advancements in oil fracking technology have enabled oil drilling operations to extract oil from areas that they couldn't previously. This has led to the rise in oil production in the region and consequently in the amount of oil trains running between North Dakota and refineries throughout the country. This particular train is coming from the large refinery in Rybold, Delaware. Many oil trains run with solid sets of these white oil tankers, and we'll catch several of these train sets throughout the program. We are currently in the northeast Indiana town of Butler, where Norfolk Southern's Chicago line and Huntington District intersect. The Chicago line is a haven for oil trains, so we'll spend some time in this area. Another interesting thing to look out for is the use of a distributed power unit, or DPU, on the rear of many of these trains. As the sun sets, we catch another empty oil train in Waterloo, about 9 miles west of Butler. As the sun sinks slowly out of sight, we catch train 64R, complete with an entire train of brand new tankers and a DPU unit between Butler and Waterloo. Back in Waterloo on a sunny spring morning, 64R again makes an appearance while Amtrak passengers patiently wait for the arrival of Amtrak's Lakeshore Limited. Switching to a summer afternoon in Waterloo, we catch 64R again as it rolls east with another load of crude oil. Most of these trains originate on the BNSF railway in North Dakota, so catching BNSF power on these trains is common. Canadian Pacific trains utilize the Chicago line between Chicago and Butler in a trackage rights agreement with NS. CP also runs oil trains, and we see CP train number 640 in Waterloo. Let's move down to the CSX Garrett subdivision, which runs to the south of the Chicago line and also hosts numerous crude oil trains. We catch our first CSX train as it slams the diamond with the NS Huntington District in St. Joe, Indiana. Moving a few miles west brings us to the town of Auburn. One is fairly likely to catch NS power on these oil trains too, despite this being on CSX trackage. Another CSX train waits in the background for the KO42 to pass. A couple miles west yields empty oil train KO53 with a BNSF unit sporting the war bonnet paint scheme. Garrett, Indiana is located just 3 miles west of Auburn and hosts a CSX yard and crew change point. KO40 gets a move on after changing crews in Garrett. Moving back to the NS Chicago line, but much further west, we catch 64R as it passes through LaPorte, Indiana. As mentioned earlier, the majority of the crude oil trains that we see on NS and CSX in the east originate on BNSF trackage in North Dakota. We visited the suburban Chicago community of Downers Grove on a cloudy fall day and witnessed a couple oil trains on their way toward eastern railroad connections. Downers Grove is located on the famed Chicago Racetrack, a triple-track main line hosting nearly 100 Metro commuter trains daily. Add in Amtrak and BNSF rates, and you have one busy piece of railroad. Before leaving the BNSF, let's catch an oil train way down in Norman, Oklahoma, on the former Santa Fe main line between Oklahoma City and Fort Worth, Texas. The temperature on this hot August day was 106 degrees. Let's cool things off by about 80 degrees and catch another 64R back on the Chicago line at the Indiana-Ohio state line. Moving into Ohio now, we're in the town of Bryan as loaded oil train 64W heads east. We catch another eastbound oil train on a pleasant fall evening east of Bryan. Moving to Deschler, Ohio, where the CSX main line between Chicago and the East Coast crosses its main line between Toledo and Cincinnati, loaded oil train KO38 heads east behind a colorful locomotive lash-up. The lead unit is a City Rail ES44AC, which is being leased by BNSF. These units frequent the oil trains that appear on NS and CSX. A few minutes later, KO40 appears. Let's wrap up our look at crude oil trains by catching train 66W with another string of brand new tank cars as it runs on the Chicago line between Butler, Indiana and Edgerton, Ohio. Thanks for joining us for this edition of Trackside Travels with Green Frog Productions. Please make sure you subscribe to our channel to always be up to date on the latest programs available from Green Frog Productions. Please stay safe and happy rail fanning.